Good afternoon. It's great to see everyone. I'm David Hahn, the Craig M. Burge Dean of the College of Engineering, and I'd like to welcome everyone to the first installment of our new Fall 2021 Faculty Lecture Series. Our goal remains the same: to share our research success and impact with our alumni and friends, many of you who have generously supported the college and have truly helped to make this happen. Today's talk is entitled Digital Healthcare. I'd like to set the stage for today's talk with just a few numbers. In 2019, the United States healthcare spending was 17.7% of our GDP, reaching $3.8 trillion, or about $11,582 per person. As a reference, the average across the European Union is right at 10% of GDP. Clearly, we spend a lot of money on healthcare as a society. Today, we're going to explore one of the most potentially revolutionary changes to healthcare in many decades, I believe, and that's the advent of remote monitoring and related home patient care. As you will learn, remote monitoring changes the paradigm of having patients come to the physician's office or to hospitals for tests and checkups. You've heard President Robbins speak many times about the fourth industrial revolution, which includes the use of the Internet of Things, integrated automation, communication, self-monitoring combined with artificial intelligence and machine learning. Think of a smart electric grid as often an example with interconnectivity. But with digital health, the monitoring is the monitoring of patients in their own homes, in their workplaces, through wearable devices that provide real-time feedback to healthcare providers. So today you're going to hear about the efforts to advance this technology and applications of digital healthcare through a unique new collaborative center led by UA Engineering. I'd like to first introduce our two panelists who are joining us today. I'm excited to have them. Dr. Hao Xin. Hao is a professor of electrical and computer engineering and a professor of physics here at the University of Arizona since 2005. He graduated with a BS degree, summa cum laude, in mathematics and physics from the University of Massachusetts at Dartmouth, and a PhD in physics from MIT in 2001. His current teaching and research interests are on high-frequency technologies from microwaves to terahertz, including passive and active circuits, antennas, properties and applications of new materials such as metamaterials and nanomaterials for wireless communication, sensing, biomedical, and energy harvesting. In 2016, he co-founded and served as the CTO of LunaWave Incorporated to commercialize 3D printed Lunenburg lens antennas for automated radar sensors. Before joining the University of Arizona, Hao worked as a research scientist at Rockwell Scientific Company and as a senior principal multidisciplinary engineer at Raytheon Missile Systems. He's published over 350 refereed papers and has over 20 patents in related research areas. He's a distinguished lecturer of IEEE Antennas and Wireless Propagation Society and is a fellow of IEEE. Our second panelist, welcome Hao. Our second panelist is Dr. Janet Wong Ravita. Janet is a professor of the Department of Electrical Computer Engineering as well, with a joint appointment in the Department of Biomedical Engineering and the Bio5 Institute here at the University of Arizona. She received her MS and PhD degrees in electrical engineering and computer sciences from the University of California, Berkeley in 98 and 2000, respectively. She was recipient of the Presidential Early Achievement Award for Science and Engineering, PCASE, at the White House in 2006, one of NSF's most prestigious award. She was the recipient of the 2007 USS University of Arizona Outstanding Achievement Award and a 2017 Da Vinci Fellow here in the College of Engineering. Her research interests include VLSI design, biomedical instrument and sensor design, AI, and cyber hardening for mobile devices. I want to welcome Janet and Hao to our afternoon discussion. It's great to have you here. Before we get started with your presentation to sort of seed this discussion, let's talk a little bit about, let's open with one question. Looking at our educational mission as a land-grant university, how might educational institutions like UA keep pace and prepare students for work in advanced digital healthcare beyond their university days, supporting local industry, for example, noting that your new center has a mission to work with external companies? I'll let Hao start and then give Janet a chance to answer.
Okay, thank you, David, for the introduction, and nice to seeing you, everyone. So education is definitely one of the most important aspects of our center. Through the collaboration with industry and local government and communities, our students will be able to learn about and appreciate the challenges in the practical digital healthcare area. In the research and development effort, they will also have great opportunities to apply their knowledge and their research outcomes to overcome those challenges. So the goal for our students is actually we want them to be ready not only to participate, but also become leaders or ready to become leaders in digital healthcare after they graduate and after they go into the workforce.
Outstanding. Janet, would you like to add to that?
Thank you, David, for your introduction. I agree with Professor Hao Xin's point of view. I think during the time when students at UA, we need to let them know that healthcare area require one that never stop learning in the multiple disciplinary area. And it is going to be tough because you will end up learn a lot. And but at the same time, as an engineering student, our job is not just only contribute to research in the scientific area, we also need to create real devices and sensors that can really help people. That also includes supporting local government to distribute the service, sensors and devices to people as well. Thank you.
Excellent. You know, the University of Arizona received and the College of Engineering received some considerable financial support this year from our state legislator through the New Economy Initiative. And it's exactly about this type of thing, which is spurring the local economy through high tech and innovation and letting the University of Arizona play a role in innovation and in spurring that economic growth. So it's great to have you both put that in context. So what I'm going to do now is turn this over to Janet and Hao. They're going to share their screen and take us to a slideshow for a few minutes. As Brian just posted, please feel free to submit your questions, and I'll pull pre-submitted questions as well as try to pull real-time questions. So Hao, Janet, the stage is yours.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Today, Dr. Hao Xin and I would like to talk about our new initiative, an NSF-sponsored Industrial University Consortium. This is called IUCRC, and this center is called the Center to Stream Healthcare in Place, or C2SHIP. This is a collaborative effort with Associate Dean Dr. Kathy Maldi and Dr. A.L. Lee. And C2SHIP has 4 sites. University of Arizona is the lead site. We also have Baylor College of Medicine, University of Southern California, and Caltech. And we also have one additional affiliate member, University of Missouri.
Okay, so what is C2SHIP? Basically, it's a center that we propose a new care delivery model. And this is basically a decentralized compared to the traditional care model. We will cover everything outside hospital, for example, at home, at school, at community, or even at battlefield, etc. Coincidentally, the latest or even the current pandemic highlighted the weakness of our traditional healthcare model. For instance, those of patients with chronic illness such as diabetes or discouraged to go to hospital care. So from the technology point of view, we focus on artificial intelligence, machine learning, together with mobile sensors and systems. And so this is one of the uniqueness of our center, which we think it's a key to resolve health disparity issues and establish health equity framework. So this will be, we will talk a little more in the next few slides as well. The focused applications are basically threefold. First of all, for chronic illness care, and second one, maintaining elderly independence, basically also including long-term care. And we will also establish a framework for prevention and wellness through the research work at the center. After all, healthcare is not just a sick care, it's probably more importantly about maintaining well-being.
From research support aspect, We receive $3 million from NSF for the center, and UA portion is 1.12 million. And normally this type of center has 3 phases, phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. Each phase has 5 years. So we're at the beginning of phase 1. NSF also require industrial members to match at least $3 million. So during our phase 1 submission stage, we already received 21 companies' letter of financial commitments. And because UA is the lead institute, we will receive all this industrial support, and then we will give up some subcontracts to the site institute. From the research activity aspect, C2SHIP relies and activates collaborations among UA different colleges and institutes with College of Engineering as the lead. We also motivate collaborations with other sites as well. Let us use diabetes foot as one example. We're looking at nanomaterial and micromaterial design, for example, wound dressing, bandage, gel, hydrogel polymers for antibacterial and antivirus purpose. We're also looking at the sensor and the system design, for example, smart socks, smart shoe insole, smart shoes or boots, and also how to manage the chronic diseases such as diabetes foot, going through the exercise and additional movement. Even though NSF only have 4 PIs and the co-PIs on each site over years, but we have already collaborating with over 50 faculty members, including doctors and nurses across this campus and also across our different sites. So here are the 21 companies that signed a letter of financial commitment when we get into the phase 1 proposal. This is a balanced combination of large, medium, and small companies and the business.
So the C2SHIP is actually the only NSF center that provides healthcare in place research. A unique aspect of UA's research is the combination of the mobile sensors together with AI and machine learning to establish an edge computing platform. That means you do all the data analysis at the patient side without needing to go into the hospital. So AI and machine learning together with advanced sensors and communication devices are viewed as the potential remedy for racial and other disparities in healthcare. Several of our center affiliated faculty members have already been working in establishing collaborations with, for example, Pima County communities to create a large distribution network, delivering low-cost sensors together with mills, collecting data, educating caretakers and local communities.
Our center has built networks with hospitals across several states. If you look at this map here, this is California where USC and Caltech sites are. We are at the Arizona, and then also BCM is in Texas, and we have a couple of other hospital and sites related to our collaborators. So in the center of the slide is hospitals around the BCM, Baylor College of Medicine area. Here, within 1 square mile, we have over 200 hospitals and clinics. As you know that everything is big in Texas. Here we see that again. Now, UA site has also established networks with BANA, both at the Phoenix and also at the Tucson area. We are also related with Mayo Clinics and Children's Hospital in the Phoenix area. And in the LA area, of course, we are related and associated with the hospitals in that area as well. As we mentioned earlier, our service and care delivery model covers anything outside the hospital. So we're looking at through this networks, reach out to 20 million patients, over 400,000 post-surgery patients, and 1.5 million post-ER visitors that we can provide them devices and sensors to continuously monitor their health status. And new inventions can also quickly get into trials after IRB approval through this network. And with the new FDA cleared products, they can also quickly get into users' hands through this network.
So our center is not only limited to doing research and development of a mobile sensing system, as Janet said, that we actually intend to put the new low cost and high quality sensors to the people, to patients. So today, if you look at the statistics, 11% of the US population do not have health insurance. And that means they are not even in our healthcare database system, or they're never been in the electronic health record, or the EHR. So that represents 37 million people in the country, and about 750,000 people in Arizona alone. So by putting these sensors into this patient's hands, we bring them into our healthcare system with low cost. Our vision is to create an extensive and balanced healthcare system to bring health to the entire population and give them translational medicine, provide precision medicine, as well as the scientific discovery through our this continuous learning system enabled by the C2 chip.
We have over 50 projects currently at the center. Today, we're only going to introduce a couple of them. First of all, of course, one of the key emphasis of the center is wearable sensors. We're looking at from head to toes, okay, in everything that is going to be a topic and projects in the center. We're investigating any type of headband, socks, to shoes and shoe insoles. We also repurpose some of the existing sensors. For example, the bed sensors, and for the depth sensors, and using AI and machine learning algorithms, we extract out the clinical valuable informations and send them to the caregivers and the doctors or to their family members. Here, this is a real example. This couple, both over 90 years old, and then they live by themselves. And this is a depth sensor camera, and they wear wearable devices, watches. And this family member happened to be one of our center faculty member. So she actually continuously monitor how her parents are doing throughout this already prepared this living place with sensors and the systems.
So we take users, the patient's identity very seriously, and privacy, and they're actually protected by our sensors and devices. Using depth sensor as an example, these sensors only recognize users' movement without revealing their identities or other privacies, while in the meantime still being able to provide real-time monitoring and tracking abilities through AI-based image processing. So in one of the example, a patient had a fall, the depth sensor was able to record all the information, in fact, identified that this patient hit his head on the kitchen counter. Then the AI program picked up this information, sent to the doctor's office, so that the doctor was able to check, particularly the head part was the PET scan. The good news is the patient has recovered largely because of the in real-time understanding of the seriousness of the situation. So sensors with identity protection can also even preventing falls with some of our research work.
As a part of our this effort, we also have this programs for STEM and health. For example, a sleep portal. This is currently an active program called My Sleep Portal, used by the Catalina Foothill School District. And this program combines sensor monitoring and tracking together with the STEM education modules for K-12 students. So through the portal, the teacher, the students, and the parents can join together and understand the sleep activities and the habits at home and how that can interact with the classroom performance.
Yeah, another focus of our center's research is neurological disorder intervention. This includes management of stress level, dementia, and other chronic neurological disorders. So here from left to right, you can see some examples of platforms we developed using heart rate variability to monitoring and intervening patient stress. We use modulated current signals to perform non-invasive deep temporal stimulations. The original idea was first applied to animal, such as a mouse model. Now we're further developing it for human beings. Of course, rigorous design and tests are required. So here in the middle is a 3D printed skeleton model. We use gel to mimic the brain gray material and measure the resistivities in the middle next to the skeleton here. We build a mesh and our students conducts measurements and signal processing. All the circuits are built into a helmet and as a prototype showing here.
We also correlate sensor measures with microscopic images with AI processing. For example, we collaborate with faculty members from Cancer Center to track different cancer treatment. So here, as you can see, this is the colon cancer. And then under different treatment, we understand whether they survive or they split and how effective the treatment are. And so this is a part of our learning health system that correlate with our current sensor-related research.
So to conclude, we have assembled a very strong multidisciplinary group of collaborators with very different background and domain knowledge. Through this collaboration, we will stretch our individual ability and extend our vision to achieve the ultimate mission of our center to bring healthcare into people's house. So with that, thank you very much.
Thank you, Hao. Thank you, Janet. You can unshare that and we'll move into our Q&A portion. It's great. That was a very informative talk. Thank you for that. I'm pulling some questions, as I said, that were pre-submitted. I'm also tracking real time the Q&A chat. Some of those overlap. So we're gonna kind of dive right in. Janet, I'm gonna start with you. You touched in your presentation just now on an example of an elderly patient. Someone asked, can you further address how you're through the center C2 SHIP are incorporating usability of these technologies for large elderly populations?
Yeah, so first of all, these sensors are still under a lot of research activity, but some of the sensors, especially the repurposed ones, have been used in the tiger homes. And also in our current, some of the senior care facilities in the Pima County. So in general, in order to scale up the ability for large elderly population, we're looking at not just the wearable sensors, but also non-wearable type. For example, depth camera, LiDAR, radar, these and thermal camera. This used to be DoD application sensors, but they have the ability to monitor multiple patients at the same time, which is very good for a setup that target a large elderly population. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Janet. Hao, and this is also pre-submitted and asked again in real time. We know that HIPAA imposes a lot of strict regulations with regard to patient healthcare data. So what are some of the requirements that you're using, or what are the requirements that you face for ensuring that your devices and approach are HIPAA compliant? And you also have expertise around cybersecurity. So why don't you address it in that context as well? It's a lot in that question.
Yeah, this is definitely a loaded question, and it's is on everybody's mind. So the devices, first of all, the devices we're using and we're going to use at the center will collect data without revealing patients' information. So they will also be using the Knox security platform and the HealthKit platform, which are for Android and iOS platform correspondingly to secure mobile data. So as we discussed in the presentation, data security and privacy are critical part of the digital healthcare. We have quite a few number of cybersecurity and information security experts in our college and affiliated with our center. So this will be one of the main research topics.
Excellent. I'm going to pull a question that just came in to the chat from one of our alums who works in healthcare in a pretty significant way at Novant Health. So he asked that one of the biggest challenges in acute care hospitals is how to digitally obtain heart rate, temperature, blood pressure, oxygen saturation in patients with a remote sensor and get it into the system in a reliable manner. Is that something that your sensors can take on? I'm going to throw this as a jump ball to Janet or Hao to want to address that, if you will.
So reliability is a big issue. It goes, this is a very good question. Okay, so it goes with several layers. First of all, the sensors outside of the hospital, in general, the sensors quality are not as good. Okay, so because you're looking at the home settings, the usage, how you use the sensor, and as well as the sensor itself, hardware design and software design will cause some enough noise, sometimes the quality of the real signals. So this is one of the problems that we have been working on continuously. Another issue right now is actually the interface module. Even inside the acute care facilities, for example, ICUs, and they have some wired sensor, not wireless sensor. The problem is these signals, they are individually popping up. There are a lot of alarms and alerts going on, but they are not fused together to understand properly what are the reasonable alarms, what are not. So this is another question over there. So in general, there's a lot of challenges, and the potential solutions is you have to look at all the different sensors inside a one nutshell, understand the correlations. So that requires, for example, using machine learning and AI algorithms to correlate with the signals, understand which part is the noise, which part is a true alert, and then only then we can feel comfortable enough to get the signals into our regular database, for example, the EHR database.
Thank you very much, Jan. There's a lot in that question. I'll just stick with you for a moment. Are you working through your center to reduce what you think of as distribution printing costs? Are you working on the hardware scalability of this? Is this part of your center as well, that you can get these rapidly produced low cost so that they're widely available? Is that within the scope of your center?
Yes. So a lot of sensor, for example, the box and some of the material are 3D printed. And Hao has a wonderful 3D printing machine. So we actually take advantage of that all the time. And then, of course, on one side, we want to lower down the price. But considering we're looking at a couple of hundred, maybe a couple of thousand, but if the sensor quality is good enough, it still saves at least 30% for people to visit, especially at the ER room. So from that perspective, whatever we do, the quality is more important than just reduce the cost of the material. That's one thing. Distribution, right now, we have been talking and collaborating with Pima County on meal on wheel programs. So people distribute a meal at the same time, they collect the sensor back or distribute the sensor at the same time.
Very good. kind of turn it to you, Hao, and sticking with the technology just for a moment. Is the focus of this center to develop new sensors, new devices? Or are you focusing on repurposing existing sensors and kind of focusing them on this problem, or perhaps both?
Yeah, in fact, we're doing both. So new sensors are in general, we're developing new wearable sensors, has better quality, has higher sensitivity, better performance, and also new mobile devices, which would involve new materials, things like a new type of optical sensors, which the goal is to address some of the weakness and disadvantage of the existing sensors, so bring new capability. But we also always want to, push the technology forward. But in the meantime, we also have repurposed a number of sensors that already existed. For example, some of them were actually originally developed for other applications, such as remote sensing for DoD type of applications, sensors for transportation, and chemical sensors. So we're just from the cost point of view and the speed to market point of view, we are utilizing those existing sensors as well. So all this effort is to for us to be able to create an efficient and effective healthcare at home.
Excellent, good. I'm going to go to Janet to give an answer to a big question that several people asked, and also I'll give you a chance if you'd like to add how or not. So we're still dealing every day with the global pandemic of COVID-19. So Janet, are there any potentials around COVID-19 specifically, or applications that would be captured under this effort of C2 SHIP or related efforts?
Yes, definitely. Actually, as a matter of fact, some of our centers, faculty members moved into that area at the beginning of this year already, try to help the RCU patients, as well as the long hauler or long COVID patients. Even though the center established or prepared before the pandemic, of course, we got the grant this year, but we never really realized one of the maybe positive side about the pandemic is let people to realize that the urgencies of doing the telemedicine, especially using sensors and systems, and how to establish a way for health caregivers to understand how to do the triage. It should start from home.
Excellent. Hal, do you have anything to add to the specifically to COVID-19, or we'll move on to?
Yeah, I think Janet said it well. It's pretty direct impact, I would say.
That's great. Again, a question that was submitted ahead of time, but also I see posted in real time as well. It's increasingly common for people to use Fitbits and Apple Watches. Is their data as generated with those devices clinically meaningful? Can you pull that in, leverage this with your own research? I'll go with you, Hal.
Okay, yeah, so absolutely there is a growing trend to use Fitbit and Apple Watch data and other devices and extract clinical meaningful information out of this data. In fact, I'm wearing one myself. I do look at my own data, plot them and things like that. But of course, there are also some challenges. So for example, for obvious reasons, company has proprietary interfaces and things like that. So sometimes the device information and also raw data, which could be very useful for serious research, are not always available. So sometimes it's not easy to know, for example, the signal to noise level, and to know how much average we need to do, the sampling rate, to have an accurate assessment of the quality of the signals. But overall, if we take a large amount of data and look at averaging, it still can be very useful. One example is we have used heart rate variability in our clinical research. So the short answer is, yeah, we will definitely look into using those common devices. And in fact, I believe Fitbit does work with UE faculties on some of the clinical data.
Excellent. I'm going to pull a question from real time. One of our participants noted that this was impressive work and asked specifically, how are you engaging undergraduate students in your research, both this project and I guess you could say the larger areas of digital health. So I'm going to let you both comment on, how are you using undergraduates in your program if you are, and has that been impactful? So we'll go Janet and then Hao.
Yeah, so we do get some requests from undergraduate students. Most of the time, they helped us to collect the data or write the interface modules, for example, apps. And so it is also very challenging, but every time when that happened, they always need to go through certain trainings, understand how to interface with the users, how to collect the data, is the quality data. And definitely with undergraduate, it's not always just about the project itself. It always also about additional training required. Thank you.
Howard, you want to comment on undergraduate participation?
Yeah, just a little bit. To me, my view is that involving undergraduate in research actually differentiates a really strong research university with compared to an average university. So I think it's a critical part. If you bring undergraduate students into research early on, not only they learn more, this will also help to steer their careers into the important fields such as digital healthcare. Myself, I did 3 years of undergraduate research when I was at college. And also College for Engineering have this great capstone project that just, spans a whole year, and the students have a lot of a chance to work on realistic research and development work. So I think that's definitely in our plan, and we have been doing that a lot already.
You have, actually, that's great. Go back to you, Janet. Part of your motivation for this center, you talk about addressing greater access to healthcare and health disparities. You want to comment a little bit more? Will your center provide devices or sensors to underrepresented groups? How do you take that on with C2 SHIP?
So part of those sensors, of course, were created by the center faculty members and students. Other part, sometimes the industry members give us some of their existing sensors and devices. So on the other end, this is showed by numbers. Statistics shows that people normally with a low income, they don't have a regular health check until it is too late. So the time when they come to the hospital, normally they end up in the emergency room or ICU. That will definitely drive up the cost substantially. So from that end, the sensor and the device with a decent price still saves the healthcare cost for this people with a low income.
Excellent, thank you. Thank you, Janet. When the new center gets up and running, you'll generate sensor data that can, or will it be actually sent to doctors and nurses to get into, the medical records, and what additional challenges would that present, How from really running this as a research project to bringing it over to the actual sharing of data with doctors and nurses to actually affect change?
Yeah, so we're going to do this step by step. First of all, Janet has already mentioned, we actually have a large number of doctors and nurses are already be part of our center. So initially, in our prototype project or initial projects, those data will be sent to our own doctors, if you will, and nurses, and then we will eventually scale it up. Of course, the security and reliability, a lot of issues would need to be addressed along the way.
Got it, good. Sort of going back to our teaching, education mission, our land grant mission, what are some key takeaways from your own professional life and career path to get here that you could or will or do share with engineering students, particularly those that have an interest in healthcare? We talk about big societal problems a lot when recruiting students, and we always talk about healthcare. So do you want to share to that, Janet, and then Hao?
Certainly. Actually, myself, I changed my research projects a couple of times. in my career as well. I think to graduate students and also even undergraduate students, I think the being very open about different field is very important. For me, I started with really what we really need is applications inside the biomedical area. So I basically jumped in. Yes, I went through a lot of additional trainings, but I think that's expected. So I would say that for other graduate students, I think this is expected as well.
Okay.
So how do you want to comment?
Sure. So, for our engineers, it's all about problem solving, right? Ultimately, we're problem solvers, and healthcare is definitely, everybody knows, is one of the areas that could use a lot of engineering problem solving skills and effort. So in my own professional experience, I specialize in microwave wireless engineering. Over the years, I have worked on a number of projects that are very much relevant to healthcare, including earlier cancer detections, including hyperthermia treatment of cancer, things like remote sensing for human vital signs, wireless data communication, and the wireless power transmission. So all of these research topics are either completely or at least partially motivated by healthcare needs. So the motivation is, is a very strong, and as Janet mentioned, if we can, whenever we solve a realistic problem, it will be very, very rewarding. That's what we're engineers are for.
Absolutely, that's great. Janet, we'll go back to my kind of opening statement about the cost of healthcare, $11,500 per person on average, 17.7% of our GDP. Do you believe with some of the technologies and approaches that you and Hao and your colleagues are taking that you can make a significant dent in the cost of healthcare?
Yes, this is a very good question. If you look at the sum of the price, even with the current wearable sensors today, they are in general pretty expensive for the regular users. But if you look at their designs, for example, 500 or 800 device, normally the design and the components only really just cost maybe around the $50 to $60. So what actually make them so expensive? Of course, there are several aspects. Originally, before this, the recent changes at FDA, to go through FDA cleared process, it takes years. Now it takes a couple months, because I think we should take advantage of the major changes. But on the other side, one of the center's main vision and the mission is also be really quality oriented, because we cannot let all those different devices come to the market that they don't really collect quality signals, especially clinic meaningful signals. So one of the requirements for the center is also come out with some standard together with the industry members that can establish a guidelines for the sensor and the wearable sensor designs and also the performance.
I'm going to pull another question out of the chat. So this is an NSF IUCRC, meaning that industry partners are important. Someone just asked, what can you be a little more specific? What are the current or anticipated roles from your impressive array of industry partners? I'll let you both take a shot at that.
Jenna, do you want to go first?
Okay. So the industry partners right now are different, wide spectrum of industry partners. Okay, some of them have a very good idea about what they want us to do inside the center. They have specific projects and they would like us to help them to work on. Other industry members, for example, they view, for example, diabetes as the focus that they would like to work on. They may not have a very clear idea what type of projects they are going to focus on. We also have some other members that they would like to join, and then they can province for them. So, but overall, industrial members define the area. For example, in the sensor, mobile sensor for the healthcare area, and also define how AI can be applied into this edge computing area for the biomedical applications. From that perspective, industrial members are very, very important because they also will help us to define the future mission and the vision of our center.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is some industry partners might come with a very specific need. Others might want to come and see what technologies you have that they could kind of bring back to their partners. That makes a lot of sense. How do you want to add anything to that?
Just one thing, for example, we talked about compliances. Some of our industry partners has been dealing with this, has been doing very well in this area all the time. So once we have innovations that going from prototype to commercial product commercialization step, they can also come in very, very handy.
Makes a lot of sense. Good. So I'll just stick with you for a second, Hao. Looking forward, where do you see the greatest opportunities for engineering solutions specifically to address digital healthcare needs in the United States? I know that's part of C2 SHIP, but what are the opportunities out there from your perspective?
Yeah, early on, David, you mentioned the fourth industrial revolution. In fact, the needs in digital healthcare are aligned very well. For example, advancement in IoT, in autonomous and robotics, big data, AI, machine learning, they all have great synergy with digital healthcare. So from technology point of view, I would say greatest opportunities in obtaining relevant data, that's better sensing, exchanging relevant data, communication, and largely wireless, security and privacy are all part of it. And also analyzing and extracting useful information from the data as that will lead to appropriate actions. So those were really great opportunities.
That's good. Makes a lot of sense. Janet, we'll go to you. Back to educational mission again. We all know that the recruitment of top graduate students is really important to this engineering program. Can you talk a little bit about the attractiveness of this type of research in recruiting graduate students from your own experiences? Is it a positive factor? How do you see the role of this type of work on getting top students to want to come to this university and work with you?
Yes, I think we all got a lot of inquiries from students from various backgrounds. That's an exciting part of it because we can easily establish a group of people from different areas. So far, we're pretty open about students, especially people with engineering background, and some of them may have a minor, like a degree inside a medical or biomedical area. So the top students, I think not just the GPA in general, I'm not sure about how, but I personally prefer people with some experience in the real sort of either hospital experience, clinical experience, or engineering experience. So they can do some projects, especially good examples would be our capstone projects, who actually, those students who work with other people from other different background and how they can team together. I think this is a very important aspect to be successful in these programs.
Thank you, Janet. How have, in your experiences, you've had many graduate students, how does something like digital healthcare, does that excite students? Does that make them want to come be a part of this in a bigger way than maybe other projects?
Yeah, absolutely. The College of Engineering, our faculty and the students have been performing state-of-the-art research and applying this research in solving the real problems such as digital healthcare. So we have been, for example, related to the C2 ship, we have been performing research in wireless sensing, communication, AI, machine learning, and data analytics, and even 3D printed antennas and sensors. So all this research experience our students gained through this kind of research are highly sought by industry. Today we have our graduates are recruited heavily by many high-tech companies such as Apple, Facebook, and the like.
Good. You mentioned industry. We've talked a little bit about the regulatory industry, but I'm going to stick with you, Hao, because you have considerable industry experience where codes and standards and certifications play very large roles. Do you want to share some additional thoughts, dig down a little bit on what it takes to get some of these first devices into actual patients in an industry that's fairly heavily regulated?
Yeah, so in the academia environment such as UFA, we do a lot of innovation. Innovative devices are invented, we do prototype, we do lots of initial testing, but for these devices to be actually used in real patients at larger scale, partnership with industry companies is the key. That's actually why NSF established this type of centers. So for example, going from research prototype to commercialization under rigorous regulation would require close collaboration among researchers. That's our faculty, our students, entrepreneurs. In that case, it could actually be anyone. Could be our students, could be our faculty at the beginning, could be our MBA students, and also the small companies, larger companies that are part of our center and beyond. So in order to do commercialization successfully, you need everybody to work together.
Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. Janet, I'm going to pull a question again out of the chat. And I'd let you both take a shot at this. I know how you're a real expert in wireless communication. So when a patient has a wearable device and now they're traveling, what kind of challenges does that present? Do you just have to drop that data out because of, for example, security, or do you try to travel with them through various wireless points? Can you leverage their cell phones? What are some of the things that you've done to keep the stream of data constant when a patient is perhaps all over the place?
So I think from my experience, it has to be relayed through the cell phone mostly, because the sensor has a battery limit. And then normally through Bluetooth, it has to wire all or just stream all the data through the cell phone and then going through the cell phone to our portal or server remotely. So that's how it goes right now. And so are there any sensors that stand-alone sensors? Probably it can stand alone and just store the data, but doing the real-time streaming is still a pretty challenging job for the sensor.
Absolutely. Hao, given your experience with wireless, do you want to add to the challenges and maybe some of the thoughts that you guys have put into solving those challenges?
Yeah, so I would say there's probably multifaceted solutions. One thing is, for example, some of our colleagues have been working on solar power, and myself worked on harvesting kinetic energy or wireless energy from the ambient. So you could, in principle, harvest enough battery or energy so that you can put it in some kind of memory storage. That's one possibility. Another one reminds me actually earlier days of the cellular network. When you drive or you walk from one cell to the other, there's a handoff process. Initially, you drop 50% of the cost, but nowadays you hardly recognize anything. So the advanced protocols and technologies would definitely help in this area. We could certainly, borrow from the previous wireless communication technology to solve this type of problems.
Excellent. I'll pull the last question from the audience. Someone noted your work with student performance, and as they say, if they understood correctly, doing some work around K-12. Are you planning to maybe do any student performance type monitoring at a university class environment, maybe at our own campus or in your own classrooms? You want to comment on that, either one of you?
I think I'll let Janet comment. And I believe Janet is working on that actively now, right?
Yeah, I think with a university student, probably it's a little bit different from the K-12. So, there are a couple of things. I think normally K-12 students, we constantly have found some interesting repurpose of wearable sensors. For example, there are students who actually put the sensor or watch underneath the pillow and then never really fake they're sleeping. Or that happens very often. So that's with the K-12. So we do have some program, especially stress-related issue that working with the university students, but I don't expect that similar thing would happen. Yeah, so.
Gotcha, good. Now we're coming to the end. I always like to ask each of our panelists to sort of pull out their crystal ball and, let's look 20 years in the future. It's a long time considering how fast technology changes. What problems do you think will have been solved in digital healthcare, and what might be the next challenges? I know those are hard questions, but we'll go to Janet and then we'll give Hao the last word on that.
Yeah, so I think one of the very complicated issue we probably will still face even 20 years from now is probably the personalized medicine and the treatment. Because so far, even though we have very strong AI tools, and I think we're only digging the surface of the iceberg or the tip of the iceberg. In terms of what may be already solved by then, I think that the probably chronic disease management, because some guidelines give to people, that is exactly happening right now, but expected probably can be even further improved down to the road. Thank you.
That's good, Janet. Hao, what do you feel?
Yeah, 20 years is a long time. I might be planning to retire and enjoy some of the technology C2 Ship created by then. Anyway, joke aside, I think digital healthcare will be in the mainstream by then. For example, all sorts of non-invasive sensors can accurately monitor one's health status. Computing devices can precisely analyze the sensor data and communicate with healthcare providers and recommend actions and medicine. Likely an entire ecosystems, including patients, doctors, pharmaceutical, and other medical suppliers for digital fitness, well-being, long-term care, medical consultancy, and even medical procedure may have been established by then. For example, we have colleagues that working on technologies that enables remote surgery, even at this moment. So overall, I believe a regular patient may need to go to a hospital much less often than now, but also receive much better care than today.
I appreciate both those answers. I agree with you, Janet. Things like chronic diseases like diabetes, we're already starting to see continuous monitoring of glucose where you can administer just what's needed, which can have huge benefits for the long-term outcome. So it's pretty exciting. I want to thank you both for a really, really informative talk. I'm super excited to see where C2 Ship goes. Really proud of you both for bringing this back to the College of Engineering. It's been great to have you both here as partners. And to our audience, I want to thank you for joining us for our first lecture of the semester. It was a really informative one. I hope you all go forth with a better understanding of what digital health looks like and how that ties into things like the Internet of Things. So with that, I want to thank everyone for coming. And again, Dr. Ravita, Dr. Xin, thank you so much. It was a pleasure to spend an hour with you. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.